So we're talking about the GoPro versus the Osmo. Now, I've watched a lot of reviews on these two cameras, and it's a lot different from everything else that I've seen out there. Now, right off the bat, DJI doesn't care about keeping all of their specs secret. They give you all of the information that you could possibly want about this camera right on the website, plain and simple. As for the GoPro, there's a lot of it that's missing. One thing, for instance, is I wanted to see what kind of wireless connectivity that the Osmo had. Right on the website, it says it's wireless AC, 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz. There's not a lot of latency between the app and the actual camera itself, and it connects every time without issues. As for the GoPro, I've had connection issues a lot, which actually became such a headache for me to do continuously that I actually took red Loctite and I Loctited the set screw for the mount into position once I had the app working so I could set it up to the angle that I want when I'm wearing the head mount. Just because trying to do that over and over became such a hassle. It was literally better to seize the mount together than it is to try and load the app because it's so unreliable. With the Osmo one, haven't had an issue once. The Osmo Action has a bigger battery at 3100 milliamp hours compared to the GoPro, which is 1220 milliamp hours. It's only 80 milliamp hour difference. It does come into play later on when we actually compare the battery life. Because even though the Osmo has a bigger battery, it fully charges in 90 minutes, and that full charge will get you around 135 minutes of use. Really weird when you take into consideration the GoPro, where it takes 120 minutes to charge, but you only get 90 minutes of use out of it. It has a bigger battery, it charges faster, and it lasts longer. The GoPro does have a wider field of view, which is something to take into consideration. However, that's with a grain of salt because it's so minor. I'm gonna come off bias here just because I've had such a bad experience with the GoPro so many times, because the Osmo Action has 145 degree angle and the GoPro has 149.2. So you gain 4.2 degrees of viewing angle. Realistically, when you have a lens that wide, the additional extra bit that you get inside of it is gonna be so warped and distorted just because the lens is so wide anyway that it's really not going to make much of a difference. On paper, the GoPro is slightly wider than the Osmo, but it really doesn't matter. For me personally, I record everything in 2.4K because I like to have the 4:3 aspect ratio, so when I have the head mount on, if I don't have the camera set up perfectly and I'm holding something really close to me, I may have missed that if I'm recording in 16:9. So by recording 4:3, I get that little bit extra height on the top and the bottom, which then gives me the room in post to adjust up and down to try and get whatever it is in there. When I have the head mount on, I can't see the camera. Most of the time, I get at least what I'm trying to show because I record in 4:3. Depending on what I'm working on, sometimes I like to zoom in post. I've done it a few times in some of my tech videos where I'm trying to zoom in on a part so you can see a little bit better, which is why I choose 2.7K, because it doesn't take up lots of file space on my computer, but it also gives me the flexibility to be able to zoom in and still maintain the same quality for an overall 1080p video. So I have a little bit of post-processing for zoom, as well as the height adjustment by doing 2.7K in 4:3. So I'm getting the full usage of the sensor that I'm paying for. For me, that works out and that's the best one. But the difference here is that the Osmo Action has a bit rate of 100 megabit per second, whereas the GoPro is 78 megabit per second. So even though they do record the same resolution, the same frame rate, the same aspect ratio, the bit rate on the Osmo Action is higher than the GoPro. So the actual footage overall is better. DJI does officially say that the Osmo Action supports a 256 gigabyte card. GoPro officially says that it's 128 gigabyte, half of the capacity. I've heard many people say that they've had 256 work just fine in the GoPro. I've even seen some people say that they've had 512 working perfect on both of them. If you have any compatibility issues where you have files missing or corrupted footage or just anything going wrong, if you're using a card that's not officially supported, then they're not going to honor help for it because they tested it with those cards. So if you're using a 256 gigabyte card on a GoPro Hero 7 and it's not supported and you have a ton of missing files or corrupted video or anything and you tell them this, they're gonna say, oh, well, that's not a supported format, so that's likely the cause of your issues. Because the camera's trying to recognize more capacity than it was natively supposed to support from the factory. So that's why I'm giving these ratings. You may be able to use more or comparable right across the table between both of them, but officially you have 256 gigabytes on the Osmo Action and you have 128 gigabytes on the GoPro. But that's where I'm going to get into the difference where the GoPro actually does pull ahead. But we're gonna put a little asterisk in there. It's not as good as you might think. It's a nice to have feature. It kind of has its hit or miss. What I mean about that is that the Osmo Action only records in H.264, which is larger format files. However, they're widely adapted across many different platforms and video editing software. The only one that I've actually run into issues with where it's not fully supported is DaVinci Resolve on Linux. You have to buy Studio in order to get the codecs to read H.264 or H.265 format, which is where the GoPro comes in, and it does record H.264 or H.265. Now, because H.265 is a lot more compressed, even though they only say that it's 128 gigabytes that it supports, you can record in H.265 and save tons of space on videos. So if you record up to the file size limit of 4 gigabyte for those MP4 files, then the GoPro is going to have a longer duration of time recorded. So those clips might be like 9 minutes long, whereas a similar 4 gigabyte file on the Osmo Action, that's going to end up being like somewhere in the 7-minute range. You get more duration of recording per capacity on the GoPro. Now, the asterisk that we're putting on that is that for H.265 editing, you need a really powerful computer because it's compressed footage. If you're just starting out, I would recommend H.264 because it's a lot cheaper just to buy an external hard drive if you need more space versus buying a better processor and upgrading your whole computer to be able to handle H.265 reliably. Now, staying with the formats, the Osmo Action, it records 48 hertz in AAC, whereas the GoPro, all they say is it's wave format. They don't actually give you the response range for the audio, which kind of sucks because if you're trying to pair multiple different microphones and you want to have the audio correct, this is the information that you want to have. And GoPro doesn't provide any of it. GoPro starts to remind me a lot of Apple with their secrecy because they keep so many specifications secret. It's a camera company. People who want cameras want the specifications to make the best video that they can by matching specifications between other cameras to have one uniform timeline. Which is just really weird that there's now a Hero 9 that's been released, and this is still information that they're not providing. Whereas the Osmo Action came out years ago, and they provide all of this information, and they're still giving updates which continuously make the camera better and better. Because at launch, the Osmo Action was absolute garbage. But now with the new software updates, it excels, like the longer battery life, the higher bitrate, even the stabilization, that RockSteady stabilization. It's now a lot wider than it used to be because they've optimized using the processing power. So you can get a wider field of view using RockSteady. Whereas before, it was so narrow that you might as well just use a regular camera. It was no longer an action camera at that point to get as much as possible. Now, lastly, I want to get into the temperature issues for these cameras because DJI, they're listing all of the information. A normal camera range that you want to have, this is essentially the standard most cameras are supposed to hit, is about 4 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius. That's the standard range. That's what most cameras are supposed to be designed to handle. So that's about 40 Fahrenheit to 105 Fahrenheit, somewhere in that ballpark. When we look at the Osmo Action temperature range, it's good for minus 10 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius. That's right in that temperature range. They actually went even colder. It operates in colder environments than is the normal standard for cameras. So they hit that spectrum all the way across. Now we go to the GoPro and their ridiculous secrecy, where they don't give any information about any of this. The only information that I could find on it is that the GoPro will just shut off if it gets too cold, except when it gets too hot. And I've actually had this happen in one of my videos on the tech channel. It won't tell you that it gets too hot. It'll just stop recording video and it'll continue recording for the duration that it's able to record, but it'll only record the audio at that point because it shuts off the sensor, which then brings me into notifications. The Osmo Action makes different sounds for everything. So for the GoPro, when you turn it on, it's just gonna beep. If we wanna start recording, beeps. Stop recording. So it's really simplistic. And it's all through a series of numbers of beeps. If you're not prepared to count all of the beeps and you're in the middle of doing something, then you don't know which number of beeps that it beeped while you were doing something. It's just to the point where I've been in tons of situations where I don't know if it's actually recording or not, and you've probably seen this a lot in other videos where people will check their GoPro to make sure it's recording because they're not sure if it actually is because it just beeps. Then we move over to the Osmo, where when we turn this one on, if we start recording, if we stop recording, when we turn it off, we know that it's off because of how all of the sounds are. They are completely different from the other one. It also makes a shutter closing sound when the screen goes to sleep, so you know that it's saving battery if you're wearing the head mount or something. This doesn't do anything like that. The screen just turns off. So that's another thing that the Osmo Action does over the GoPro. It makes tons of sounds that are usable because you can actually tell what they all are instead of just a series of the identical beeps on this. Now, the camera itself is also different. So these are both like water resistant or waterproof cameras without the underwater housing. So using them in the rain or outside of a vehicle, like while off-roading or something where you have water splashing around, that's really not going to be a huge issue for these things. I use these in the wet all the time. One thing to take into consideration is putting the door back on, because I take these off because I leave it in the housing, and you have to take it out of the housing over and over to undo that door and then plug it into the computer. So because I mostly use these in dry environments, I take the door off, and if I'm going to go outside, I put the door on. So for me, the door is off most of the time on these cameras. Now, another thing is the front screen. This one here just gives a little bit of information. This one here is a full color display where you can actually see yourself. So if you're vlogging and you want to have the camera pointed at you, you have a display to see you. Now, GoPro has added this in the newer ones, but just comparing these two cameras together, because you can pick both of these up for around $300 Canadian, which puts them in exact comparable price points if you were to buy one right now. Now, the rear display on the Osmo is also bigger than the GoPro, so you get a bigger display on the back, you get a full display on the front. The video quality is basically exactly the same across both of them. This is a little bit wider, but this one has a higher bit rate. Both of these cameras have removable covers for the lenses, so if they get scratched, you can take them off and replace them. GoPro has removed that from the newer cameras. So in terms of functionality, this is the best GoPro, because if you get a scratch on that lens in one of the newer ones, you have to replace the whole camera. On these ones, you just replace the little filter over top of the lens and you're fine. This is still the one and only camera that DJI has made. It's still comparing with a Hero 7. It kind of goes to show that this is the quality product, which gets into feel, which is very debatable. This is just a plastic case with soft touch coating on it. This one here is like a textured hard plastic with an actual rubber piece in the middle. This feels more like it would be an actual camera, and this feels more like an accessory. Like, it doesn't really feel like a camera. This feels like a camera. To put this simply, if I were to have both of these side by side, completely unaware of anything, and then just based on the construction alone, I would say that this would probably be worth twice what this is, just based on the actual quality, the attention to detail. This is just like a little painted on logo where it says GoPro. This one here actually has a little metal plaque where it's painted and then has the machined face over top where it says Osmo Action. Plus there's a little black heat sink that sticks out to help heat dissipation for this camera. This is just better. I don't know how else to put it. It's better quality, feels better, the attention to detail is way better, the screen's bigger, you have a second screen, the bit rate is higher, they give you all of the information on their website, it's continuously getting updates, and every update it just keeps getting better. The only thing that I would have liked to see on this is H.265 support. If this had H.265, there's not one person in the world that really has to buy a GoPro. There's no reason to buy a GoPro if this had H.265. But again, you need a powerful computer for H.265, so if you don't, then you have no reason to be buying a GoPro for H.265 if your computer can't handle it anyway. It is the best action camera that I've used. Now I'm gonna say I might be a little bit biased because of how many issues I've been having with the GoPro. I bought this completely unknowing of what to expect. I watched a few reviews and it just seemed like it wasn't quite what the GoPro was. And I just figured I'm gonna dive into it and I'm gonna take the risk and I'm just gonna see what I get. Because if worst comes to worst, I have the GoPro, I'll just continue using it and just deal with all of the issues, and I'll just sell the Osmo and either make my money back or just take a small loss. And for me, that cost of knowing how this camera is in a real life situation, not the paid YouTuber reviews that I've seen out there, where everyone talks about how great it is and how it's very comparable to the GoPro, and they never tell you the bad about the cameras. The bad about the Osmo Action, it doesn't have H.265. The bad about the GoPro, we're gonna get into this. Okay, so this is why I hate GoPros. And the first thing you'll notice here, 4LQ7 coil spring conversion. So if you follow along with the Hate Me Club, which is another one of my YouTube channels about automotive related things, I started recording this video in January 2020 and it's still not done, and I'm going to show you why, because like I still want to complete this video, but it's such an immense amount of work that I keep losing ambition through it because of the GoPro. Now, I only have one GoPro, and in this folder, this is all the footage here. So right here, we have GH010001, and that is a 3.9 gigabyte file, and it's 8 minutes and 51 seconds and everything, so there's nothing out of the ordinary here. And GH010009, so where are files 2 through 8? So that's the first interesting thing that you're going to notice with the GoPro. It just decided that this header right here, GH, it can just change for some reason to GO or GP or GX. I literally just bought the camera. This is one of the first projects that I was doing with it. It's a brand new memory card. I formatted the memory card on the GoPro, so that way it's to their format and everything. It's a recommended card, a fast one. So there's really no reason for footage to be missing, but here we are. So the way GoPro works with this footage is the first number is the chapter and the second number is your video. That's our first clip, that's where we start and everything's fine. To go to the next one, we don't look for 02. The 02 has to be over here. So now we manually have to go down and we have to find GH020001. So that's the second chapter of clip number 1, which means that you can't organize your footage by name because this is clip number 1, this is clip number 2, this is clip number 3, clip number 4. So these are all one video of a continuous recording, and it goes on. And you have to keep grabbing each of those as you go down for each one until you get to the end of it. So this is video number 1, and I have all of the clips. Okay, perfect. So I imported all of those to DaVinci Resolve, I compiled them all together into one really long clip, and then I rendered it out just so I don't have to do all of this organization, so I have one really long clip of all of these clips. And then I did that for every other video that I could find through this folder until I had everything sorted out correctly, which then brings me back here to these random files that didn't fit anywhere. But for some reason, I didn't lose footage because these segments right here, I already have this clip, but for some reason, the GoPro just decided to duplicate the clip with a different header. So this one here was probably one that started with GX or GP, and I used that clip in the compilation where I combined them all together, and the video plays through completely fine. There's no missing clips anywhere, but then I just ended up with these 5 random clips at the end of it. Also, these 2 right here are corrupt. That's why there's no thumbnail, because they won't load. Complete huge segments of video missing, like at least 18 minutes of footage completely missing, and who knows how long the rest of that clip was. That could have been an entire hour of section that's completely gone because it just deletes it. So that's basically the GoPro. Like, the organization is absolutely horrendous. Like, it's so hard to go through all of this footage. I contacted GoPro. They offered to send me a replacement camera, so I sent mine back. I got a new camera. So this is a replacement camera, same thing. This right here was on the original camera. This is the one that I ended up sending back to GoPro. They said something was wrong with this. So someone on Reddit suggested that a fix for this is to organize by date. So we'll organize by the very first one right here. So this is 2020, January 1st. So this is New Year's Day at 2 p.m. So this would have been the very first clip that I was doing on that camera because I ended up buying it on Boxing Day, but I didn't have time to actually use it until New Year's when I was in the garage. Right here, the very first clip starts off with GOPR 0001. Then we have GP01 0001. So not sure what's going on here, but the time and everything makes sense. So this is an 11 minute and 50 second video. So it's almost 12 minutes. And right here, you can see that we started recording at 2:01 p.m. and then this clip started at 2:13 p.m. So that's right about 12 minutes apart. These clips back to back, if we play them, the end of this clip links up with the beginning of this clip. Yet look at the file names. What is this about? This doesn't make any sense at all. It worked out. So, okay, sure. It was just ridiculously confusing, but sure, I got the footage. Then right here, we start off chapter 1, number 4. So clip 2 and 3, those just don't exist. It just started recording on clip number 4. Or maybe I was recording and it just completely deleted that footage. So right here, again, it lines up. So now we're January 10th, so this is 9 days later. Now it just suddenly switched over to GH. The only thing that I could think of could have been the firmware that the camera came with. And then when I downloaded the app, which was probably at this point, because I didn't use the app right away when I got it, I had the camera set up on a tripod. So this would have been the newer firmware, but then I have no idea what this GX is, because that doesn't make any sense at all, because it switches back to GH. And these are organized by date. So this is how the camera recorded them. So the camera just decided that right here, January 10th at 6:48 p.m., that was it. It was done with GH. You know what? It had it. It wanted GX. So January 11th at 6:18 p.m., it decided we're GX today. And then it continued doing that all the way down until January 16th at 5:38 p.m. And it was like, you know what? GX is pretty good, but I'm going to go back to GH. So on the 17th at 6:01 p.m., we were back at GH. It makes it so confusing to try and edit videos. No one ever mentions this in their reviews, how absolutely terrible the file structure is on a GoPro, instead of just making their software being able to read a normal format that every other camera in the world uses. Going over to the Osmo footage. So right here, we can see that I have a project here. So this is for my E36 and I'm detailing the interior. So right here, if we start off on the beginning, now keeping in mind that when I was doing this interior video, I did the entire car at once. So I did the exterior and interior. So these clips start right here on 12:07. Now, the reason for this is because the prior clips to this, so 12:06, that would have been detailing the exterior. So this is where the interior detailing starts. So this file name error is my issue because I did this. And that's clip number 7. But then you can see that right here, video 12, clip 8, video 13, clip 1, clip 2, video 14, clip 1. Then right here, we just did some short ones. This one right here, this is clip 20, 22, 23, 24. So again, I was using the camera for something else. There was another project on there. So you can see the differences in the dates right here for how long I was working between projects. So the last time that I was working on the car was April 26th at 8:06 p.m. And then the next time that I started working on the car was the next time that I grabbed the camera, and that was May 25th at 8:55 p.m. So there was obviously a lot of footage between there. But then right here, you can see that I made a longer recording. So it made 2 clip 50s, and it's number 1 and number 2, perfectly organized. Right here, 51, 1, 2, 3, right here, back to number 1. So the first number is the actual footage. The second number is the clip of that footage. So that way it stays perfectly organized. Then we can even organize by date, and look at that. Everything is still perfectly in line because it's the exact date and time that I took all of the footage, and nothing is messed up, and everything works the way that it's supposed to work. Right here, the way all of the files are organized on the Osmo is beautiful. This makes it so unbelievably easy to edit the footage. And that's why I can't stand GoPro. And I literally just took the dive, I went with the Osmo, and basically everything about the Osmo is better than the GoPro, and I literally can't express this enough. So I'm going to show you a few more things. I hope that was definitive results that the Osmo Action is a better camera than the GoPro. Because even after the software updates, and this being the second replacement camera that I got from GoPro because they said something was wrong with it and it wasn't, all of my newer files are now GH or GX. It still switches, and I don't know why. I'm still losing footage. The camera still overheats. It's not a faulty camera. This is my second one, and it's still doing the same thing, despite GoPro saying that my camera is broken and then giving me a new one, which is really cool on their part because they didn't even ask any questions. They said, oh, there's probably something wrong with it. We'll send you a new one, put the old one in the box. So they gave me a camera for free. I just took the old one, put it in the box, and sent it back. Their warranty policy issued me a camera, so I had 0 downtime. So I could continue using the faulty camera, getting the new camera, swap my memory card and everything over, make sure that's good, send the other camera back, and I'm right back in business the same day. I don't know how the warranty is for DJI, or if they have something similar to that, but I haven't needed to send it back. It's worked continuously. The only thing that I found online is some people say that the camera just won't charge randomly or it won't turn on, and that's because of the smart battery. And I've gone into this in the videos with my drone where I bought it, but it sat on the shelf for so long that the battery was dead in the box, and then DJI wouldn't issue me a return because I bought it from a non-official reseller. That kind of sucked. wasn't in good water with DJI right off the bat. The products are good. It's kind of hit or miss. I can't say that their customer support is very good because I haven't had a good experience, but that was one experience. I haven't needed to do anything with this, and if this does stop charging, the fix for it is just a new battery, which for these are pretty cheap. One last thing here are the cases that come with these and why I take the door off for the USB port. So this one here is the case for the Osmo Action. This is the one that comes with it, and this one here is the case for the Hero 7. This is the one that comes with it. Neither of these have been dropped. Now, given that the GoPro one does have more use, this latch right here on the top, it's a single pull. So you just pull it back, that's it, it's unlatched, and you just lift this up and you can open it. And it's pretty simple. The Osmo Action, exact same situation. You pull it back, but you hear the click. It's a heavy duty plastic clip on this thing. It also has like a snap when it's opening, so you actually know when it's open or when it's closed. Whereas the GoPro one, it's kind of, it's mushy. Like, it's not super good quality. To illustrate not being good quality, mine is broken. It's almost cracked all the way through, so I'm not going to be able to use this much longer. Now remember that I bought this camera on Boxing Day 2019, so that means that I've had this camera for about a year and a half, and the case is already broken. I don't do extreme sports. I barely walk fast. I haven't really done anything outside that would justify a reason for this to be broken. That's just from opening and closing it. And because of that damage, but the fact that it still latches right now and I don't have to buy a new one, I took the door off of the side, so that way I can just plug the camera right in the case and not have anything to worry about. Which brings me to the next issue, is even if this door was fine, and I could put the camera in and out all day and there's no issues and it just works the way that it should. These edges right in here are extremely sharp. So sharp that when putting the GoPro in, they cut through that soft touch coating, and now there's like a cut in the top of the GoPro just from trying to put it in the case. And now, because that cut's there, it's raised up and it catches every single time. So now it's an inconvenience, and a new case isn't going to solve that because it still has the same edge on the inside. So to fix that issue, I need a whole new GoPro because the case made a mark in the soft touch and lifted up the coating. So third-party case would probably be the solution, like a small rig, the little metal ones that add the cold shoe mounts. That would be an ideal solution. But for like the factory case itself, the clip is just mushy, it cracked, it cuts the GoPro. So now if I needed to, I have to replace the GoPro to get rid of that gash in the top of it. It just sucks. It sucks. It's terrible. It's a terrible design. It's cheap. It feels like garbage. The clip breaks. It damages the GoPro when you use it. If you absolutely need a GoPro, then go buy a small rig case for it. Because that's just a better case. Because it has cold shoe mounts on it. So you can attach a light, an external microphone. GoPro one, this is literally garbage. Another thing in terms of quality is opening this door on the bottom. Mine, for whatever reason, decided that one day it wasn't going to slide out the way it's supposed to. So you slide it out and then it goes up. And one day it just decided that it wasn't going to do that. And it went like this. And because it went like that, I thought it was open and I lifted it up and it bent. So, I mean, my bad, but at the same time, this door doesn't work all the time. There. So, GoPro, it lacks all quality. It's very cheap. It overheats. There's no information on their website. The cage that you get with it sucks. It broke just from normal use. I don't do extreme sports. It's never been dropped. There's no reason for it to be broken other than just opening and closing it, and it's still cracked. I've lost footage. I've had corrupted footage. The battery door doesn't work every time, so I ended up damaging it because it doesn't work all the time. The GoPro's damaged from the cage. I don't like this thing, is what I'm getting at, because the Osmo Action exists. If it didn't, this would be great. This would be an absolutely fantastic camera. But because the Osmo Action exists, and it's the exact same price right now to buy them online, which is saying a lot because these used are about $300. The Osmo Action is $300 brand new, which is what I got mine for. So at the time of sale, when they were just coming out, people originally paid more brand new. I got this thing on Boxing Day, so I got it on sale, and it was about $350 taxed in because the GoPro Hero 8 had just come out, so this was on sale. I got the Osmo Action for $300 taxed in with shipping. So it was $50 cheaper for me to buy the Osmo Action. I can probably sell this secondhand for about $300 and make all my money back. So there's really no reason to be buying a GoPro, and I can't express this enough because so many YouTubers talk about how there's really no difference and they stay with the GoPro because the brands have been around longer. When you actually look at it, the Osmo Action does everything better. The only thing it doesn't have is H.265. They could probably do that in software because it's just image processing for the same container file. Who knows? Maybe if DJI is watching, then it would be awesome if you introduced H.265 to the Osmo Action. That would be amazing because it would make it better than GoPro. And no one would be riddled with that stupid file system that they have that just drives me insane. Plus, you know, you're not going to lose footage all the time, and you're not going to have the thing just continuously record audio when you think it's recording video. And I've just had bad luck with this thing for almost every single video that I've made, and it has caused some issue. Osmo Action, on the other hand, I haven't had an issue once, and every single video has worked without issue. So, let's get to the Osmo Action cage. The difference between these is there's no sharp edges, so we can just... The GoPro just sucks. And I've used so many GoPros. I've had every single one of them since the Hero 1. I was in the exact same boat where I just kept buying GoPros because I'd watch a few videos and say, oh, okay, that new one's pretty good. Like, I'll think about buying that a little bit later when I need something. And then it'll go on sale, and I usually end up buying it just because it's on sale and it's newer than what I currently have, so I get a little bit more features with it. Plus, it's had a few software updates, so there's no launch bugs that you have to worry about. And then the Osmo Action came out, and it was from this new company, DJI, and they make drones. So how would an action camera be when a drone camera is significantly different than this? I watched some reviews and it wasn't that good. It didn't hold up. And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm gonna buy another GoPro. Now that this fell into the same principle as my method of buying GoPros, is waiting until they're on sale and then buy them, plus they've already had software updates, so the bugs from launch have been fixed. This has been around for a while. There's software updates. They've fixed tons of things. Now it's better than a GoPro for less. So this thing is sick. And as soon as this video is uploaded and I know that I never have to use that GoPro again, it's gone and I'm never looking back. It also works with all GoPro accessories, so if you have a ton of them, you only have to buy a camera. You don't have to buy everything else. I don't know. Hopefully you found something useful out of this review between the GoPro Hero 7 and the Osmo Action. And I really don't want to buy a Hero 8 just to do a comparison between both of those. So don't look forward to seeing that because as it currently stands, this is the go-to. If DJI releases a second one of these, I'm buying it without question. Because if this camera is this good after being so old, not only are you getting your money's worth, because you get many more years out of a camera for your money, whereas these ones, there's basically a new one every single year pretty much. So you're buying a new camera every year. This thing has been going on for years and they still haven't made a new one. They just keep making software updates and it just keeps getting better for free. So if they release an actual second camera, I'm buying it without question because I know that I'm going to be getting years of use and updates out of that for the next camera. I will buy it brand new. I will not wait until it's on sale. I will buy it brand new because of how good this camera is by comparison to GoPro, the standard that I've always gone with. I don't know, hopefully you got something useful out of this. If you were questioning between the two, buy the Osmo Action. I know a lot of reviews don't tell you which one, they give you a comparison and then you decide from there. I'm saying buy it. You won't be disappointed. This is a non-paid review. Like I mentioned before, I didn't have a good experience with DJI customer service, but this is a product review and I'm saying that I love it. This is an amazing camera. I use it all the time now. I've never had issues and it just does every single thing better than the GoPro. So that's basically it. Leave some comments down below if you thought there was something else that I could have touched on between these two cameras. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, that's cool, whatever. Subscribe to the channel if you didn't, that helps out like a lot. So that's cool, or you know, like don't do any of it. I'm not telling you what to do.